Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tank. My name is Alan. When Andor first came out, there were some pretty bad takes from critics. I remember some people complaining that this show lacked the fantasy and magic that made Star Wars different from other more hard science fiction franchises. What they were talking about missing was, of course, lightsaber duels, the Force, and its mythology, and the more black and white struggle between the Jedi and Sith. While I agree that this version of Star Wars, Andor, is a bit more grounded in reality, and most likely we won't see any Jedi or Sith for the entire series. But it doesn't mean it's not a part of the Star Wars galaxy and any less fantasy-based. We are simply being presented with another point of view, the point of view of the average individual living in the universe. The same exact universe that the prequels, the Clone Wars, and the original trilogy takes place in. And just like here in our own world, where the average person does not run into, elite politicians, celebrities, and athletes on a daily basis, the same thing goes in the Star Wars galaxy. And so, in Andor, the absence of the Jedi and Sith are to be expected. Also, you have Order 66, which successfully wiped out the majority of the Jedi from the galaxy, just like the Sith Rule of Two did the same to their organization more than 1,000 years earlier. On top of that, Emperor Palpatine made a huge effort to wipe out any remaining signs of the Jedi Order. They would strip mine their holy planet of Lum, repurpose the Great Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Any Jedi or Sith artifact that was uncovered were also taken to Palpatine's own private collection and just locked away. The Jedi became a forgotten legend to those who were born after the Clone Wars, and to those who did remember them, well, they became like boogeymen. After they tried to take over the Republic in a coup, Imperial propaganda would continue to tarnish the Jedi's reputation as the Empire's grip on the galaxy tightened.
I've heard 100 stories about the Jedi. They terrified me as a boy on Coruscant, but you...
Then again, at the height of the Old Republic or during the High Republic period, there were no more than 10,000 Jedi Knights in the entire galaxy. Even during the terrible New Sith Wars, when the Sith and Jedi were recruiting every Force-sensitive they could get their hands on, the battles they fought were still limited and surprisingly small in scale. The Force users of the galaxy have always been a super small minority, a rare and unlikely occurrence that only has a chance of emerging when your population is galactic in scale. The Skywalker trilogy kind of normalized the Jedi's appearance, making them an everyday occurrence, instead of portraying them as the rare supernatural wonders they were. Imagine just how shocking it would be to see a fugitive Jedi in a show like Andor, which is so grounded in reality. Imagine how strange it would be to see the Force unveiled, and imagine how impactful that moment would be. Sometimes you have to take things away for us to truly appreciate them. But no, Andor, and more importantly Rogue One, the movie which it's derived from, treats the Force very differently from the Skywalker saga films and the Filoni TV series. Because of its everyman nature, the Force is never seen in the same clarity in which Luke sees Force ghosts, or in the same way as when Palpatine shoots Sith lightning from his fingertips. And that's because a non-Force sensitive is blind to the Force. They cannot see the living Force or feel it around them. They can only see the results of its invisible hand. Film like Rogue One doesn't have Jedi, instead it has individuals like Chirrut Îmwe, a blind human and a member of the Guardians of the Whills, a spiritual warrior monk sworn to protect the Great Kyber Temple on Jedha. The first time we see him, he kind of looks like a beggar. He's sitting on the ground spouting off all sorts of lunatic prophecies. But then Jyn Erso kind of stops. She still has that spark of wonder in her eyes, and she's attracted to Chirrut because he says this:
"To trade that necklace for a glimpse into your future."
How could a blind man like Chirrut Îmwe see what Jyn Erso is wearing? Is he pretending to be blind? Well, Jyn Erso is wearing a necklace, but it's not visible to anyone. She has it completely covered up. And so how does Chirrut, see this necklace? Well, this necklace isn't just any simple necklace, mind you. It's a Kyber crystal necklace. Kyber crystals are what power the Jedi's lightsabers. They're semi-sentient crystals that form a bond with the Force user and can even call out to them through the Force. Every Jedi youngling would partake in the gathering ceremony on Lum, which is where they would find their own first crystal and use it to construct a lightsaber. And so it's very likely that Chirrut here sensed the Kyber crystal, which means that he must be a Jedi, right? Or at least Force sensitive. After all, how else could a blind man like him take out so many stormtroopers with relative ease? Maybe he's using echolocation like Daredevil?
Is he a Jedi?
There are no Jedi here anymore. Only dreamers like this fool.
In comes Chirrut's good friend and partner in crime, Baze Malbus. He used to be like Shrewd, he was once a believer of the Force, but now he sees the grim reality of what the galaxy is actually like. Baze's temple has been taken away from him, the Empire has stripped all of the kyber from the walls within that holy place, and no one has come to stop them.
The Force did protect me.
I protected you.
The back and forth tussle between the believer and the non-believer is a more accurate representation of what the Force is like for the everyday average person. And this is sort of how Tony Gilroy handles the aspect of the Force in his part of Star Wars. And so in Rogue One, the Force is vague. Miracles aren't quite miracles, and certain things that happen on screen are just too fantastic and perfect for the audience to believe that this was just simple good luck. We're told that Shrewd is not a Force user multiple times, but it's just so hard to believe when you see what he's capable of doing. I mean, even Baze at the end of the story is somewhat convinced and finds his faith once again. In Andor, which is even more grounded in reality than Rogue One, the Force seems completely missing. There's no presence at all here, aside from maybe that kyber crystal that Luthen Rael pawns to Cassian Andor as payment for the raid that he's about to go on. Luthen Rael's ship also seems to be powered by kyber crystals. In Andor, the kyber crystals aren't seen as valuable because of their connection to the Force, but because of their energy amplification properties. So, in Andor, where do we see the Force?
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
The Force is generally separated into two different categories by scholars. You have the living Force, which is the actual thing that the Jedi or Sith connects to with their midichlorians to manipulate the world around them. It's just that energy field that everyone talks about. When we see someone getting suspended in the air and getting choked out, that is the living Force. Then you have the more esoteric concept of the cosmic Force, which sort of implies that all of the Force in the galaxy is somewhat sentient and controlled from a central source and can take action. In the very important Legends novel, Darth Sidious and Darth Plagueis did several really crazy Force experiments. They were able to bring back the dead from the living, and they even tried to overwhelm the light side of the Force on a galaxy-wide basis. It's actually believed that these two Sith Lords succeeded in imbalancing the Force, which then awakened the cosmic Force, which began to push back. It's even hinted that the Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker, was conceived by the Force, which explains Shmi Skywalker's immaculate conception. Darth Plagueis also saw his own Force connections degrade as a result of his actions. Qui-Gon Jinn also talks about joining the cosmic Force when he passes. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda would do the same thing. The Jedi generally try to become one with the Force and the cosmic Force's goals, which is why their consciousness would be absorbed into the energy field. The Sith, on the other hand, try to control and bend the Force to their will, which is why their version of immortality is a bit more unnatural. This is probably why the Rebellion is so closely aligned to the Force and why so many people in the Rebellion use the term "May the Force be with you" as a greeting and a goodbye.
Hey, Luke. May the Force be with you.
My belief is that the Force has always been on this side of the Rebellion, at least until they won. And this is because Palpatine was perverting the balance between the dark and light side. In the beginning stages of the Rebellion in Andor, where every little action, every meeting mattered, the Force is definitely at work. In my opinion, it's seen the clearest in how it affects Cassian Andor. All his life, this man wants nothing more than to be just left alone so that he can kind of start enjoying himself.
Better to eat, sleep, do what you want.
But time and time again, his life is interrupted and he's forced to confront the Empire. Whether it's his father being hung by the Empire, driving him to attack that clone patrol, or the accidental killing of those Corpo guards, which leads him directly into the hands of Luthen Rael, who then uses Andor to make sure the Aldhani raid goes off without a hitch. Remember, not only did Andor help the raid be successful, he also prevented Skeen from running away with those crucial credits. That raid would lead to the Public Order and Resentencing Directive, which would throw millions of innocent Imperials into prison and extend the sentences of those who already were lingering in the system. And as we'll see on Arcana 5, this will lead to an overtaxing of the prison system, which will lead to more escapes, and these individuals, either through desperation or genuine change in ideology, will join the rebellion. After the Aldhani raid, Andor does try to escape. He tries to leave Ferrix and goes to Nymos, a planet that hosts a large beach resort area. Andor tries his best to enjoy himself, but while walking to the grocery store, he gets nabbed for absolutely no reason. Yes, I know a lot of you guys are gonna be like, this is exactly how stormtroopers are like in my sector. I get it. But everything in this Nymos sequence, from the music to the color grade, is off. It's designed to be this way. We're supposed to feel unsettled because Andor, the main protagonist, is not fulfilling his duty. He's not fighting against the Empire, which unfortunately is his destiny, a destiny chosen for him by the cosmic force. And so when Andor is thrown into the Supermax Libre prison for essentially doing nothing, that is the cosmic force working its magic. And the results are that Andor manages to awaken Kino Loy, who then leads the entire prison towards freedom. The force works in mysterious ways, and that quote is basically supposed to remind us that we're supposed to be somewhat ignorant about how the force works, especially if we're not force sensitive ourselves. The guiding hand of the force can be basically anywhere in the galaxy. That is the deeper understanding of what the force is. And that's why it's probably in Andor as well. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy,